ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। श्री हरिनाम प्रभु की जय। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome all devotees and well-wishers for our seminar here, which is entitled Improving Our Japa. The whole world is working upon improving oneself, and devotees are also in the same line. We also want to improve our own self, our connection with Krishna, our spirituality, our professions. Everyone is trying to update every particular thing in this world. We have our mobile, we update our apps. We have our mobile, we update our mobile working systems, the operating systems. We want new mobiles to update our mobiles. In this way, we keep updating ourselves. That means we improve ourselves. Updating is a very, very nice word, a very positive word to the same word of improving. So, in one sense, we want to update our japa as well, because japa is the most important activity in Krishna consciousness. Once Srila Prabhupada mentioned that maximum benefit or advancement one can achieve is from japa in spiritual life. Something to the degree like 99% of our advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on chanting. Why? Because in this age of Kali Yuga, the methodology of achieving perfection of life is through chanting of the holy names, Nam Sankirtan. So, if Nam Sankirtan is the process for this age of Kali Yuga, shouldn't we regularly speak about chanting, discuss about chanting? In fact, I remember when I was new in Krishna consciousness, I was told by some devotees who were guiding me that whenever we have any discussion, any topic, any talk, our talk should contain some element of japa, some element of talk about chanting. So, which means that we need to be very conscious that one of the most important method of advancement in our life is chanting of the holy names, right? Let me give an example that how even though we have chanting as the holy name as the most important, yet it is not going to be easy. This is a beautiful example, I would say a quotation from Shastra. We'll go to Srimad Bhagavatam first canto. Srimad Bhagavatam first canto mentions the beautiful life of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king and he ruled his subjects, his kingdom so nicely that everyone was happy. But yet Parikshit Maharaj, even though his subjects were happy, it was not that he was relaxed. He was always on his toes, thinking about the welfare of his citizens. So part of his welfare activity, thinking about the welfare activity of his citizens, was also to move around his kingdom and check by himself if everything is happening right, going right. So one particular day when Parikshit Maharaj was moving around, as mentioned in Bhagavatam first canto, he saw a very sad sight, wherein a cow and a bull were actually injured by one person who was looking was dressed like a king but looked like a low born person, a wretched person. So Parikshit Maharaj was very intrigued. He saw that cow was struggling, the bull was struggling, they were both crying, and the whole story mentioned in the Bhagavatam that how Parikshit Maharaj wanted to immediately kill this personality. This personality was none other than Kali Yuga, who had entered into this world. The time had come. Parikshit Maharaj was ruling at the end of Dwapar Yuga, and that was the time when Dwapar Yuga was ending and Kali Yuga was coming in. So Kali Yuga was infiltrating the kingdom of Parikshit Maharaj, and one of the things of Kali Yuga is that all bad things or bad voices, especially killing of cow and other sinful activities begin in Kali Yuga. So Parikshit Maharaj raised his sword and was about to kill this Kali Yuga, this Kali who was dressed as a king. Now, Kali saw that Parikshit Maharaj is a very powerful person. He is the grandson of Yudhishthira Maharaj and he has personally got mercy from Lord Krishna. So he knew very well Parikshit Maharaj had power to even defeat me or kill me. So understanding that he cannot go against Parikshit Maharaj, that time Kali Yuga took full shelter of Parikshit Maharaj and said, see, you are king of the whole world, emperor of the whole world, I am also your subject. This is my time to come in. You have to give me shelter. I am taking your shelter. Give me some places in your kingdom. You can't throw me out like that. So Parikshit Maharaj was like kind of thinking about this, and Parikshit Maharaj was thinking, yes, he has taken shelter of me, and yes, Kali Yuga has to come. So I need to give shelter. So what should I do? So immediately Parikshit Maharaj said, well, you can take shelter on amongst those places, in those places where these four things are happening, where meat eating is happening, intoxication is taking place, gambling is taking place, and illicit sex is taking place. And immediately Kali Yuga was using his browsing technology. He went through the whole world in a short time and said, oh Parikshit Maharaj, you are such a great king that there are no places like this in your entire kingdom, in the whole world. This was the rule of Parikshit Maharaj. Can you imagine? These four things never existed there. So Parikshit said, you are giving me places, but they are not existing. So are you going to create them or give me one more place? So Parikshit Maharaj thought for some time and said, okay, I'll give one more place to you. Fifth place is the place where gold is hoarded, a lot of money is there. You sit in that place. And we see here today in Kali Yuga also, wherever a lot of money is there, automatically all principles are broken there. So Kali Yuga got a place there, shelter. Now Parikshit Maharaj had an idea. Parikshit Maharaj knew very well that Kali Yuga has to come in. It is the age of Kali Yuga. He can't avoid it. But he also knew that keep Kali Yuga at bay and take full advantage of Kali Yuga. So Parikshit Maharaj was thinking in his mind that Kali Yuga, I know by my study of scriptures, I have been told that in Kali Yuga, spirituality will become very easy as compared to other ages. And the most easiest process is the Nama Sankirtan, by chanting of the holy names. Just by chanting of the holy names, one can achieve perfection. So the glory of Kali Yuga was known to Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj thought, anyways Kali Yuga is going to come, the age is coming up now. So why not take advantage and give a place by which you keep Kali Yuga at bay, and yet you allow that Kali Yuga's benefits may come. So with that intention, Parikshit Maharaj gave Kali Yuga one place extra, 5th place. Now Kali was smiling inside his heart. He knew very well that Parikshit knew that he cannot avoid Kali Yuga, but he wanted to take benefit of Kali Yuga. Parikshit, seeing this Parikshit Maharaj's intention, Kali Yuga smiled within his heart, and he thought, and he said within his heart, the Parikshit Maharaj is thinking that by my coming, spiritual life will become easy, because now one has to only chant the holy names, and you achieve perfection of life. Indeed, yes. But Kali smiled and said, but because I am Kali, even this easy process I will make it difficult to follow. I'll put so many obstacles in this process that even though it is easy to go back home, back to Godhead, perfect one's life in Kali Yuga, still by my intervention, by my influences, a people in Kali Yuga will hardly do it or will find it difficult to do it. So with this background, now we can just analyze that we have a very simple process. The process is chanting of the holy names. But Kali Yuga is going to put all his obstacles for us to chant his holy names. So today's seminar is actually based on this understanding that when we are going to chant our rounds, when we are going to chant our kirtans, we are going to face obstacles. Because Kali Yuga, the age of Kali, doesn't want us to take benefit of this particular important principle, which is very easy in today's age. So what are the problems we may face? There are many problems, right? Like one nice lecture I was hearing, and this devotee was mentioning beautifully that when you are not devotee, Maya Devi is 24 hours screening you, working on you, analyzing you to keep you under her. However, when you become devotee, she works overtime, right? She works overtime. That means now she knows that this person is going to go away from my shield. He's trying to escape. He's trying to go to Krishna. She will work overtime to make sure that you don't escape, and she keeps her customers with her. So we may use this word Kali and Maya always often. Why? Because actually they are not different. Maya Devi is functioning through the agency of Kali Yuga. So in one sense, when we chant our holy names, it is not going to be easy, it's going to be difficult, tough. So what are we going to do about it? We are very small people, we are insignificant, yes, but one thing we can do is, as mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Kali is special because of Nam Sankirtanam. That means this Nam, this holy name, will become powerful when we come together and help each other, discuss, practice together. When that unity comes, the unity will give us strength to overcome all the obstacles of Kali Yuga. So, one nice, wonderful point which I thought I could share with all of you is that recently I got a chance to attend one nice seminar which was given by His Grace Madhav Prabhu and Radhika Mataji, and they were mentioning a very beautiful point. Madhav Prabhu was mentioning that if you analyze, when we are doing some service for Krishna, seva, then after seva we feel we have done something, and we also feel kind of a purpose achieved in our life. Like for example, we do some project, or we did some deity worship, we did some prasad distribution. After that we feel good, oh, we have done prasad distribution, right? Or we achieved our purpose. Then why is it so? Then we chant our holy names every day for minimum 2 hours, 1.5 hours, 16 rounds. Then why we don't feel that we achieved a purpose? Or why we don't have the same feeling that we have done something as we feel for seva? So they analyze this beautifully, both of them, Madhav and his wife, that maybe the reason may be that when we are doing seva, we are doing a good substantial amount of seva which we can potentially do as per our capacity, and maybe that chanting we will not do as per our potentiality. We will not exactly chant the same amount that we are doing the seva amount. That means the amount of seva we are doing may not be same as the amount of chanting we are doing. So this is one of the reasons why this that we have not done something in chanting, we don't feel like that. Or another thing may be that when we are doing some seva, we do seva with a lot of intensity, right? Maybe that while chanting we will not put the same intensity as we do for any service we do. I was thinking about these two beautiful points, that why we don't feel, many of us do not feel that, oh, we have done some good chanting, or we have done something. So either there is amount problem or there is intensity problem. So if we analyze this amount problem, intensity problem, amount problem, it generally boils down to two things: quality and quantity. Chanting of quality and chanting in quantity. Let me give an example. Let's say, for example, in the temple kitchen, they make very nice halwa, sweet, too good, best of ingredients, best of dry fruits, and pure hand churned ghee of a cow, and that halwa is there, and then you're excited to eat the halwa. Halwa is already offered, right? They make halwa in the kitchen, but when you came there, the people who were going to eat the halwa, the line was 500 devotees, and halwa was just one pot. Then what will happen? Everyone get how much? Just one small speck. So you have heard about halwa is so nice, so amazing, and now when you're getting chance to eat, you're just getting one speck, and you eat that. How will you feel? You will feel that I should have got something more, second round, third round, as much as I need. So when there is quality, we also want quantity. Quality halwa is there, but there is no quantity, so there is no satisfaction. On the other hand, if quantity is there, but if the quality is not there, then again there is problem. Like for example, many years back we went for a program, and the program organizers had told our cook that cook for 250 devotees and be ready for more. So our cook was very relaxed, not much of tension, so he cooked for 250 devotees. So he made a sweet halwa again, nice halwa he made, 250 devotees. Suddenly to find, when the program began, more than 250 devotees came, around 500 devotees came. So everyone searching, the organizer was searching the cook, where is the cook, that please increase the amount of halwa because more people have come. But somehow the cook was completely spaced out, somehow he went here and there, his mobile was not reachable, and finally just 15 minutes before the program was about to end, he came back to kitchen. And everyone said, where were you? 500 people have come and you have made halwa for 250 people only. What to do? Make it more. Can you make now more? I said, don't worry, it's simple. And to everyone's surprise, he just took all the semolina, the rava, for 250 people. Now generally, if you know halwa, how it makes, you have to bake the fry or bake the halwa first, right? And then after that, you have to add sugar, water, whatever it may be, the style of cooking is. But you have to first fry the halwa, the semolina, the rava. He just picked up that 250 extra and just poured in the exact already halwa which was made. Means the halwa is made without cooking the other halwa. He just poured the raw material in the already existing halwa and just stirred the whole thing. Can you imagine eating that halwa? That halwa was like you're eating halwa, you're finding very soft, and suddenly something comes in your teeth. No one is able to relish that halwa. So quantity, and that halwa was available, a lot of halwa. I mean, you can have second round, third round, enough. But devotees were not taking it because it was not relishable. The quality was not there. So quality and quantity is both important. One devotee was giving Bhagavatam class. Someone asked him a question. Prabhuji, for improving our chanting, can I increase my chanting? The devotee immediately said, don't increase your chanting, don't increase quantity, increase your quality. And I was analyzing why he's saying only quality, why not quantity. Then I realized that the devotee who was asking question was very known, well known to the speaker. The speaker knew very well about his life, and speaker knew that this devotee was chanting, but his chanting was not good. He was kind of not, pronunciation was not good in terms of chanting of the holy names. He was sleeping in japa, or he was chanting late in the night, something like that. And therefore, when he spoke to him, he said that you are chanting, you improve your quality first, then we will see quantity. So, taking all these things together, we come to a very important conclusion that yes, we need to work on both the quality and the quantity as well. It's like two tracks. We have to work on quality and quantity. Yes, we need to better our records quality wise, we need to better our records quantity wise. So, in our discussion today and tomorrow, what we are going to do is we will first start our talk with the introduction, which we have done now today, and then we will discuss some of the nice techniques or tools of chanting or improving our chanting, and in the end, if time remains, we will speak something on the glories of the holy name also. So let's jump into fast the techniques of chanting. So today we will speak on 3 techniques of chanting. I hope you are all ready with me. So 3 techniques of chanting is I call it 3 P's. P for Prabhu, P. 3 P's. The 3 P's of chanting, guidelines to improve our japa quality wise. 1P, 2P, 3P. What are 3 P's? The first P is posture. The second P is pronunciation. And third P is prayers. Posture, pronunciation and prayers. Posture. Let's work on each one of them very nicely, go details about what they actually mean. Posture. You must have heard Srila Prabhupada's japa chanting, right? There is a beautiful recording of Prabhupada chanting japa. If any time you hear the whole recording, in between Srila Prabhupada said, sit straight. Sit straight. So posture during chanting should be straight japa. That means you sit very straight. You don't relax and chant. Meditation means not relaxation. Meditation gives relaxation, but meditation is not relaxation. So when we are chanting, we need to have good posture. That posture helps us in a second level, that is concentration. So when we are sitting, our back should be erect, straight. Our hands should be straight, and we should have folded legs. Padmasana, Sukhasana, whatever it may be. Lotus position. This is the ideal place, ideal posture to chant. And regarding hand straight, very important. We have seen many times when we chant Hare Krishna, and we are, even though we are sitting in a cross-legged position, we see that sometimes devotees even fall asleep in the cross-legged position, which is difficult position to sleep, but still they fall asleep. Why? Because their hands are not straight. The tendency is that when the hands are straight, slowly, as the concentration goes down, then your hand becomes like this, curled, slowly, and you're chanting like this with your hands, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. And slowly, then your back becomes lesser erect, and you go down, and then finally, when your posture is going down, this posture is comfortable posture for going to rest or sleep. And then at that time, what happens? Your eyes close, and then slowly you stop chanting, and you are sleeping. So all begins because the posture is changed. If someone keeps his hands straight, cross-legged, back straight, it's a very uncomfortable position to sleep. Of course, someone can sleep in that position also, but very rarely. Maximum people cannot sleep in a position which is very straight, erect position. And you find many times also when we see a posture of a yogi or a siddha, we find them doing meditation, dhyana in a very straight posture. No one does dhyana sitting in a sofa couch with one leg up and chanting beads here, and he is in his own world. No, not like that. That's not Hare Ram chanting, that is Hare Aram chanting. Aram means sleep. So posture is very important. So when we sit down for japa, we need to sit straight, If someone has back issues or health issues, then he may sit on a chair. But in that also we should try to keep ourselves as much as possible straight, as much as possible, considering the bodily problems, bodily issues. Nowadays we have so many devotees who are very aged, so maybe they can't sit in cross-legged position. But the point is, sit in a posture in such a way that you don't fall asleep. That's the most important, because posture is not there, then immediately you fall asleep, and if you are asleep, then you can't chant good japa. So we want to avoid sleep first. Sleep is the most biggest enemy of japa. We found many devotees who have become accustomed sleepers in chanting. Why? Because when the trouble began of sleeping in chanting, they did not take it seriously. Many devotees tried to help them, but did not take seriously, and eventually it became a style, and eventually become such a thing, conditioning, that as soon as they would put their hand in japa mala, immediately they will go to sleep, even though they had a good night's sleep or a good day's sleep. Still, because conditioning, as soon as you chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna starts, the system switches off. So we need to know that sleep is a very big enemy of a devotee who is wanting to progress in Krishna consciousness. Sleeping in chanting is like, in one sense, not able to take advantage. So therefore we should be very careful that in our chanting we should avoid sleeping, and the best way to avoid sleeping in our chanting is to sit straight. Our posture should be very good. One more thing which will add to our posture and our good chanting, avoiding sleep, is how our eyes are helping us. So like if you see, a maximum of our senses are all in the face. We have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils and 1 mouth or tongue, right? So maximum senses are there. So we can use the maximum senses either to get distracted or either to get concentrated. So one devotee mentioned a very beautiful point. He said that he has improved his japa because he knows that the eyes are the one which distracts the whole attention. From eyes you get all the information, the mind starts focusing, the mind starts processing, and then the ears start following wherever the eyes are, and the mouth also follows, because the eye is like a leader in the whole senses in the face. So if you are chanting, one of the good techniques which was told to me by one devotee who chants very nicely is to say, don't keep your eyes full open, because if your eyes are full open, you see the whole world around you, and the data is going inside the mind, and it may process the data, and maybe you get distracted, your mind is start thinking of something else other than chanting. One option is maybe close our eyes, but that's also a problem. If you close our eyes, then we will fall asleep. So what to do? So maybe between them, opening and closing, maybe half closing of eyes as much as possible. So this is one technique which I learned from one devotee. It helps my japa also. So that's why posture is very, very important. The first thing in the technique in a good chanting, or at least attempting to chant good, is to have good posture. Sit straight, back erect, cross-legged if possible, and eyes half closed or half open. So we finished first P. The second P is pronunciation. First P is posture, second is pronunciation. When you talk about pronunciation, yes, what do we mean by pronunciation? Pronunciation means we need to chant the whole Hare Krishna mantra properly, right? That means we need to chant all the syllables, all the words of the Hare Krishna mantra. It is 16 worded Hare Krishna mantra. So our Hare Krishna mantra chanting should have all the 16 words. Why we are emphasizing so much on all 16 words? Because we are not just chanting one Hare Krishna mantra. We are chanting one Hare Krishna mantra 108 times, which becomes one round. Such rounds 16 times. So the same Hare Krishna mantra continues in our chanting, and that's day in and day out, right? Every single day. So when chanting one thing regularly, there is a chance that we may get distracted or disfocused, and we may not even understand that we are missing some words. Like someone may chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So one Hare is missing there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare. So total 2 Hares are missing in 16 worded mantra. So it becomes 14 worded mantra. So it may then lead to not chanting the actual mantra, right? Ours is Maha Mantra. Maha Mantra means all 16 words should be there. What if we chant only 14 worded mantra? Well, Krishna is Bhavgrahi Janardhan. Krishna understands. Krishna is essence seeker. But Krishna essence seeker doesn't mean that we do anything nonsense also. We need to put our efforts, but our efforts should be also genuine efforts, right? So we need to make sure that we chant our 16 worded Hare Krishna mantra and not chant any new mantras which we create by 14 word, 13 word, 12 word, 15 words. I'll tell you a nice example. One time in our temple we had one nice devotee, very nice devotee. So he was chanting in the morning during the japa time, and this was Sunday morning. And in our temple on Saturdays in the night time, we invite many of our youth congregation boys, youth boys to come and stay in temple, overnight stay, attend Mangalarti on Sunday morning, and chant with devotees, attend Bhagavatam class, and then go home. So this devotee was chanting Hare Krishna, and then one young boy, from a youth or congregation, in the morning must have slept late and got up early in the morning Mangalarti. He was not able to sleep, not able to chant in the japa time. So he got up he was walking and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, like that. And his devotee also was walking around, and they were walking next to each other. And suddenly his devotee heard that this devotee was struggling to stay awake. The IYS, the youth boy, he was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Ram. He was actually missing many words in between. So when he heard that mantra, because he was chanting very, very loudly, very audibly, so then immediately the devotee got a little annoyed. He said, Prabhuji, he told the boy, Prabhuji, which mantra are you chanting? And this devotee was surprised, this boy. Prabhuji, I am chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Are you sure? Why, Prabhu? Check. So then he became very conscious. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare. So initially he was kind of flabbergasting and not. Then really he became very conscious and was chanting every syllable rightly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Then pronunciation was good. So this devotee boy improved. After that, after some time, when the devotee again heard, yes, chanting very good. So this devotee in temple, he was feeling, I unnecessarily corrected him, I do not know the boy, I just corrected him. So he thought that you have right to correct someone if you are correct. So I have never tested my own japa. Let me also test my own japa. So this devotee, when he chants in the morning, he chants with 3 devotees. So he told one of the devotees that I am giving a sound recorder, and whenever I am not conscious, you keep the recorder next to you, so that my chanting I can record like that. You can record my chanting, and then after that you give me my chanting. I need to see. I need to hear how my chanting is. So after 4 or 5 days got over, this devotee came and said, Prabhuji, this recorder you gave me, I recorded you today morning without you noticing me. So he was excited. So this devotee picked up the recorder, went into his room, and then he plugged in and then he was hearing his own chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. When he heard that his own Maha Mantra, he again asked the same question to himself, which mantra is that? And he realized that I was trying to correct other person, but I never checked my own chanting. And indeed, that devotee was chanting only 14 words, I was chanting 15 words only. I missed one word. And then he became very conscious of his own chanting. So many times we may not know that we are chanting the whole 16 words or not. We need to be conscious, and we need to consciously take help. So part of pronunciation also means that we need to take help, sit in a way that we have devotees around us, or we need to always check our pronunciation, how we are doing our chanting. So when you chant our Hare Krishna mantra, it means to chant the whole Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. not miss anything. And therefore, devotee should not be in a mood of having a pacing japa. That means finish the japa, complete japa as soon as possible. Our eyes should not be on the clock, right? Our more concentration should be on the chanting, hearing. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, what is chanting all about? Prabhupada said, chanting means only hearing. Hear what you are speaking, the words. So when we are not hearing, we are not conscious of what we are speaking. So pronunciation especially means to chant the whole 16 worded Hare Krishna mantra clearly. Pronunciation also means the decibel level of chanting. Many times when we are chanting almost like we are not being heard. Even neighbor is not hearing. We are not able to hear our sound. No sound, silent kind of thing. But if you see, the best thing is to chant little audibly. Prabhupada, when he chanted, he was chanting very audibly, right? We find not just Prabhupada. After Prabhupada, there are so many Prabhupada's followers. They exactly following what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada sits straight, they also sit straight. I had one good chance once. I went to Pandharpur and I had a good chance to sit in the same temple hall very close to Lokanath Swami Maharaj, and I saw him chanting, very sincerely chanting. He is such an advanced devotee, so much taste in holy name, but the way he was chanting, sitting straight and then pronouncing all the syllables properly and very attentive, and in between Maharaj was having little issue because of his age factor, but still he was struggling and chanting very nicely. That inspired me so much. I was thinking, this is called as chanting. This personality has got taste because he has struggled his life to chant nicely. He is pronouncing syllables, his posture is good, and the prayerful mood is so nice. Then I got chance to also see Radhanath Maharaj chanting. And so he is also having so many issues of health at the age of 70. All proper disciples, 70 plus age, and they are sitting straight and chanting. And they are moving their head and pronouncing. And I found one devotee was chanting very nicely. He was moving his tongue and the lip movement was very, very distinctive. Like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was thinking why so much of lip movement is there. So the devotee told me very nice thing that when we are chanting Hare Krishna mantra, since we are chanting the same mantra regularly for many for hours together, right? Together for half an hour, say 1 hour, 2 hours. So there is always a chance the body may go in an autopilot mode. Just like when you're driving a highway, straight highway, there is always a chance that while driving a straight highway you may fall asleep, autopilot. you may lose control because you're not doing much. Either you're not moving your hand or you're moving the hand in the same fashion continuously. So it's like a static thing or a static dynamic thing, not much of activity, not much of action. So there is a tendency to sleep. So he said that because there is a tendency that we are not doing much, we are chanting the same mantra, so there is chance of sleeping. So then you move your lips, curl your lips, move your head, not shake your head, but move your head nicely. So then you are doing different things always, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So that helps in staying awake. This is another technique of chanting in pronunciation. Pronunciation means chant audibly that you can hear, your neighbor can hear close by, so that he can know that you are chanting. Not that you chant very audibly that everyone run away from you. They think that this chanting is too loud. I can't concentrate on my chanting. Not that kind of chanting. Not too louder, not silent, but a little decibel enough that you hear and that your neighbor very close to you, he also is able to understand that you are chanting. That decibel level, that sound level has to be there. So we finished. We completed posture part. We completed pronunciation part. Now, one more thing in pronunciation which I forgot to tell is, it's a humorous thing. I was attending a seminar, Japa seminar with one devotee. He was adding a lot of humor to make it very good. I may also add this thing just to make my presentation a little more appealing and not boring to all of you. Hope you are not sleeping during my presentation here. We're talking about not sleeping during Japa, but by a boring presentation, people may sleep during the session itself. So this devotee was mentioning very nice point. Why do people sleep in japa? And he gave a very different outlook. He said, holy name is sweet, right? Madhuram. Madhurashtakam. It's a beautiful ashtakam bhajan sang on the glories of holy name. Madhuram madhure bhyopi mangale bhyopi mangalam pavanam pavane bhyopi harer nameva kevalam. Kevalashtakam. So, he was mentioning because the holy name is so sweet. A devotee is supposed to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, which is sweet. Now, while chanting, he doesn't chant the 16-word mantra. He doesn't chant the whole Hare Krishna mantra. Which actually in a colloquial language, in a normal language, say that he is eating the words, right? He ate those words. If someone is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, and one Hare is missing. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Last Hare is missing again. So 2 Hare is gone. So we call it in simple language. He is eating words, right? So he ate what? 2 Hares. And this devotee was mentioning that Hare Krishna Mahamantra is very sweet, right? So he is eating 2 sweets per Hare Krishna mantra. So just imagine he is going to chant 16 rounds. How many sweets is he going to eat? If someone is eating so much sweet, what will happen? When you eat too much sweet, what happens? Immediately you will feel very drowsy, sleepy, and you go to sleep. She was mentioning in a very humorous way that if you are not pronouncing all the syllables of Hare Krishna mantra, you are eating those words, naturally you will sleep because you are not pronouncing the whole Hare Krishna mantra. So this is something about the pronunciation part. We will work on the third thing now. The third P is called as prayer. I'm sorry. So when you talk about prayer, yes, prayer is a very essential part of chanting, because Srila Prabhupada also mentioned Hare Krishna is like a prayer calling for help, calling to Srimati Radharani, calling to Krishna, Rama, O Lord Hare, O Srimati Radharani, O Lord Hari, please engage me in your service. So it's a prayer. So while it's a meditation, but it's also prayer. So when definitely in our chanting we need to be very prayerful. We need to be very conscious of what we are chanting, then mantra, the meaning of the mantra. So in order to come to a very prayerful mood, one of the beautiful techniques of chanting which I heard from His Grace Burijan Prabhu, he mentioned is that when you're chanting Hare Krishna mantra, because we are in a conditioned stage of life, we are not chanting our rounds very nicely, at least not all our mantras nicely. So what happens? That we are not chanting all our mantras and we are making an effort that we chant all our mantras, but that's a very massive effort, right? Like for example, someone is a new devotee, new person chanting. Can he immediately chant every Hare Krishna mantra, 16 rounds of them, completely perfect, attentive? It's a very big challenge, very big goal. But it may be difficult but not impossible. We need to begin somewhere. So Burijan mentions that we need to begin somewhere. So if you feel distracted in your chanting, that you're chanting Hare Krishna mantra, your mind has gone somewhere else, and suddenly you realize that your mind has gone somewhere else, at that time, when you get that consciousness, it may be after this, it may be during the same round or the next round, after 3 rounds, whatever it may be. When you get that consciousness that I have gone away from chanting, I am just chanting physically but mind is somewhere else, bring the mind back, and that time, whichever mantra you are chanting, that mantra, whichever mantra means that mantra which you are now chanting, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra which is going on, you hear that mantra. That means you begin chanting, you finish 3 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra, 4th round is going on, suddenly you remember, 4 rounds, and you did not even heard the mantra, you are in your own world. Immediately, okay, now Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You chant that mantra while hearing the mantra and offer that mantra at the lotus feet of Krishna consciously. Maybe you can do like this for that mantra, maybe next mantra also, and if you are more better devotee, for a few mantras also. But eventually after some time the mind will again go away for a big round, big to come back again, conscious, which are mantra now going on, Hare Krishna, offer it to Krishna. So in this way, slowly we increase our offering of Hare Krishna mantra at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani. So we then what happens, that's called progressive march towards chanting each and every Hare Krishna mantra. We make a beginning, do something. So we chant that one thing which we are very conscious now, make a prayer, offer at the feet of Krishna. So this is one nice way of actually being prayerful. We cannot if we are not able to be prayerful throughout our chanting, at least one Mahamantra, let's be prayerful and offer at the feet of Krishna. And that one Mahamantra is not a very small Mahamantra. Every Mahamantra we are chanting is very powerful, potent enough. If we chant that one Mahamantra very sincerely, it can open doors of liberation. It can open up doors of opportunity for more chanting, for more service, to go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah, it's true. Srila Prabhupada mentions this very beautiful point here. Srila Prabhupada was once approached by a few devotees, and they told that one very senior devotee of Srila Prabhupada, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, was very close to Prabhupada. He suddenly left Krishna consciousness and went away to fall away from Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada, when he got the news, he said, don't worry, Krishna will take care of him. Krishna will bring him back. And all the devotees said, Srila Prabhupada, what makes you feel like that? Srila Prabhupada said, because I saw him. We were in Vrindavan and that devotee chanted very sincerely his Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Once I saw him. So because he chanted once, so Krishna has already taken note of that. He will help him. So Prabhupada was mentioning about this devotee who was once somewhere nicely chanting Hare Krishna with concentration and offered that Hare Krishna mantra to the deities, to Krishna, and Prabhupada watched that. And Prabhupada said Krishna will take care of it. Indeed, it happened like that. Prabhupada, after he disappeared from this planet, then few years later, this devotee who had gone away from Krishna consciousness was in his own things. Everyone, his friends had left him, his family members had left him, who were not devotees, they left him. He was alone, and suddenly that time he came to know that he got cancer. There was no one around him. And at that time, one devotee came to know that this devotee who had left the movement was having difficulty. So he approached that devotee, talked to him, spoke to him, and then he reported to all the devotees who were close by, and then he mentioned, and all the devotee community felt that we should help this devotee. So the devotee community went to meet this devotee who was in trouble in life. He was like last time of his life. He was about to leave his body. So then they gave him all the support, all Krishna consciousness, prasadam, and they asked him, well, we want to come and stay with us in devotee circle. I said, why not? So immediately they shifted him from there to the temple there, close by. And this was a temple which he had stayed long before, where Srila Prabhupada also had come. So when he came to the temple, all the memories of Srila Prabhupada came back, and then he started chanting Hare Krishna again in that state of life. And eventually, many times devotees saw him actually shedding tears while chanting Hare Krishna. Someone asked, why you are shedding tears? He said, because I am such a low-born person. I got opportunity to get initiated by Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was so close to me. Yet I gave up that opportunity and left Prabhupada. I am so fallen, and now I have got back this opportunity by mercy of Srila Prabhupada. I don't want to miss this opportunity. So he was kind of chanting, and he was also very repentant. Repentant heart is very powerful for the heart to become humble, simple, and heart to be prayerful. And many devotees are told, just by going next to this devotee who is about to leave his body, they would get inspiration. Devotees would go initially thinking that will encourage this devotee, but by going to that devotee, they got encouraged themselves. All because the connection was somewhere down the line, one place, his spiritual master watched him, that he was chanting very nicely. So we should not think that one Hare Krishna mantra is not good enough. Yeah, one Hare Krishna mantra is also good enough. So we should try to accumulate more Hare Krishna mantras. It is not like in the whole 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra, you just chant one Hare Krishna, and then remaining rounds are gone. No. As much as possible, try to gather in our rounds that Hare Krishna mantras which are very nicely heard and offer at the lotus feet of Krishna. So we may have 5 Hare Krishna mantras one day, next day 10 Hare Krishna mantras, third day only 3 Hare Krishna mantras, no problem. Keep on trying, keep offering more and more Hare Krishna mantras. So therefore, praying to deities, praying to the holy name is a very important, essential activity. Now, one more important thing about prayer is, essentially prayer means you offer prayer and then you expect the prayer to be fulfilled, right? Like, what is the prayer? What is this chanting Hare Krishna? Chanting Hare Krishna is a prayer of asking Krishna to engage you in his service, right? So I remember I was attending a Japa seminar and one devotee was mentioning a very beautiful point that if you're chanting Hare Krishna mantra and you're asking for service, right? You're asking for service, then what happens? After chanting, you expect service to come. Service will come, you do service because you asked for it, right? Like, for example, if I ask for drinking some water and someone brings water for me, then what happens? Because I asked for it, it came. So every day we are asking what? To Krishna, to Radharani, please engage me in your service. Then we should expect service to come. However, if we are chanting the whole day our rounds, then where is the time to serve? So this devotee was mentioning that therefore the best time to chant our rounds is in the morning time. Because in the morning time the mood is very good, goodness is there, prayerfulness is very easy at that time, and plus you can complete your rounds and you can be ready for service throughout the day. However, if one is chanting throughout the day 16 round quota and he completes his round, let's say night 10:30, so when Krishna and Radharani may think, that when should I give him service? He is asking for service. But this personality is chanting throughout the day, and after he keeps his mala, then he is so tired. The only thing he can do is take rest and get up in the morning next day. And again the whole day is chanting Hare Krishna, his quota of rounds. And when he will serve? So we need to also know that we are asking for service, asking for grace, and then we should be ready for nice service. For that, the most important thing is we need to chant in the morning also. So we'll discuss more about chanting in the morning in tomorrow's session. And one nice thing which I want to add here is, recently I got a chance to visit one country in east of Africa, and in that country I met one devotee family, Gujarati devotee family, and asked them how you came to Krishna consciousness. So by hearing this story, I came to know that they were the first devotees in that country. That means Krishna consciousness began in that country through that devotee. And they were mentioning that how they were not into Krishna consciousness, they were in their own world, they were settled in that country for 2 generations, and all they had some piety because they from Gujarati background. They knew about Krishna, but nothing about spiritual life in very strong terms. And then suddenly one particular day they heard Harinam going through the streets, and they were intrigued. When they peeped out of the window, they saw someone chanting the Hare Krishna mantra with kirtan, playing drums and playing kartals, and they were surprised because this whole group was nothing but, it was like Indian group. This group was mixed with devotees who were having white bodies and black bodies, and they were chanting Hare Krishna. That was very interesting for them. They always thought that this Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram is only known to Indians, and they were surprised that the local native of Africans plus Englishmen also were chanting, and that was so surprising. They decided to go down and check who are they. So they went down and they saw the whole Hare Krishna mantra performance. They were chanting, dancing, and they were so happy. And this devotee, this husband and wife who saw the chanting, who later became devotees, they were surprised and they were intrigued and they wanted to talk with the devotees. And what happened when they talked with the devotees, that we'll see tomorrow. So rest of the story will come tomorrow. Please join us tomorrow again. Till then, Hare Krishna and Srila Prabhupada ki jai.